Coming up, cases of academic dishonesty at Miami have more than doubled in the past decade. We'll tell you why. But first, does Oxford have a history of brutal racism? Oxford Weekly News reporter Ryan Terhune will give us the story. Welcome to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Dylan Srocki. Thanks for tuning in. History is not always something to be celebrated, but it still must be remembered. Ryan Terhune joins us with more. Ryan?
Thanks, Dylan. Black History Month is over, but a racist tragedy from Oxford past should never be forgotten. Between High Street's Memorial Park and Martin Luther King Jr. Park is the forgotten legacy of a black man.
So Henry Corbin, he was an African-American man who lived here in Oxford, who was lynched, and to have that history here in Oxford, knowing that there was somebody that was lynched here, literally right here where we stand, and this park, it is magnificent in the sense that not too many students know about it.
A religious handyman that struggled with depression, Corbin was accused of murder but never tried. Instead, his hanging body was shot over 50 times. The coroner later ruled that Corbin, quote, died by his own hand. Oxford, like the nation, has struggled against racism. The 1868 first edition of Recensio, Miami's yearbook, contained a roster for the local KKK chapter. 100 years later, Recensio featured images of white students that mocked lynchings.
That there was really hideous tragedy inflicted upon black people in this community. And that's something that I think white people often have a very difficult time with. And I'm not saying I understand the pain of black people. I don't. But I know that there is a particular kind of pain that comes out of knowing that your people and sometimes your relatives were treated in that way.
But Oxford also desegregated its schools in 1887 and trained the Freedom Riders in 1961. However, this history, just as the murder of Henry Corbin and the 1877 lynching of Sim Garnett, goes largely unremembered.
No, I had no idea.
I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I've never heard that there were lynchings here in Oxford, let alone this park.
For more information on Oxford's racial history, you can explore the special selections at the Lane Library and the King Library's Heavenhurst selection. Activists hope that a Steiner memorial could raise public awareness, but as of now, no official plans have been made. Dylan.
A decade ago, there were about 200 reported cases of academic misconduct at Miami. For the academic year that ended in 2018, that number more than doubled to 496 reported cases, even though the student population did not increase significantly over the same time period.
The increase can be explained by changes that have made detecting and reporting cases of academic dishonesty easier for faculty members, such as the implementation of Turnitin.com and Proctorio in the classroom. To address this increased caseload and provide further support for students, the Center for Teaching Excellence is in the early stages of a proposal that would increase administrative efficiency in the reporting process for academic dishonesty, as well as establishing a procedural review stage for students. Currently, after students are notified of a report, the next stage is a hearing with the department chair. If passed, the new process would create an interim step in which students would meet with Miami's Coordinator for Academic Integrity, Dr. Brenda Quay.
In that initial first face-to-face meeting, it can help alleviate a lot of the fears, a lot of the nervousness, provide just a lot of good information about what this is and what to expect and what all this means to really provide that support for students.
Additionally, Quay says that this new step in the process would allow students the opportunity to accept responsibility for their actions before needing to attend a hearing. Miami alumnus and three-time Emmy Award winner Jeff Pegues will be the class of 2019's commencement speaker on Saturday, May 18th. Known best for his coverage as a CBS correspondent, Pegues is one of the most informed voices on conflict between the black community and police. His coverage of the 2016 election interference gave CBS viewers an inside look at the importance of Russia's interference. Miami's celebration of Black History Month wrapped up with a big crowd turning out to hear about the intersection of sports and race. On Monday, February 25th, the Penney Lecture series welcomed University of Houston professor Billy Hawkins to deliver a lecture titled "Making America Great Again: Inhibiting the Conversion of Athletic Capital into Political Capital." The lecture looks at sports as a way of policing black athletes.
Here, students have seen 5 different black scholars, top of their game, nationally and internationally known, all right? That's a rarity. And the fact that it coincided with Black History Month, that was like icing on the cake.
Coates started the Penney Lecture series 23 years ago to welcome prominent scholars to deliver lectures to the Miami community. This series is dedicated to race, sport, and social justice. The next lecture will be given by journalist and author Will Haygood on March 4th. Miami University's lecture series continues Monday, March 11th, this time with a familiar face in actor Rainn Wilson. Widely known for his portrayal of outlandish paper salesman Dwight Schrute on NBC's The Office, Wilson is also the founder of the Soul Pancake. The organization is dedicated to providing spaces for all people to discuss and consider tough questions, such as what it means to be human. Wilson's lecture will have a similar focus as it is titled Chew on Life's Biggest Questions. The lecture begins at 7:30 on March 11th. Tickets are on sale starting Wednesday, March 6th. Miami plans to renovate 2 more dorms on its Oxford campus's South Quad. Dodds and Stanton Hall's renovations will include upgrades to the plumbing, heating, and cooling systems, as well as improvements to the building's accessibility. These are the final halls on South Quad that have yet to be renovated as part of the university's long-term housing master plan. The $35.5 million upgrades should begin as early as this May, with their expected completion set before the fall semester of 2020. Speaking of academics, Talawanda students start planning for their futures through Butler Tech. A new career development program has recently been approved. It will create a 4-day school week, where every Friday students head to Butler Tech for career studies. So far, over 1,700 applications have been received. The program is set to begin fall of 2019. On Saturday, February 23rd, Miami University women's basketball held its annual Love, Honor, Cares game. In addition to donning pink uniforms, the event supported cancer victims, survivors, and their caretakers, raising money for the fight against all kinds of cancer. Over $5,000 of the money raised went to 4 teams of undergraduate students participating in cancer research projects. Fan turnout hit a season high with nearly 3,000 in attendance. The crowd saw an exciting finish, with the Redhawks securing the win late against the Bowling Green State Falcons, 75-62. With a 21-5 record, Miami still sits in first place in the Mid-American Conference standings. Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, Miami's Treblemakers made huge ground while competing at the ICCAs.
Welcome back to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Danny Stent. Today we welcome on Patrick Donovan, who is here to talk about the 2 articles he wrote this week about mental health and the hepatitis A outbreak that has been on the rise in Ohio. Patrick, thanks for coming in today. In your article that discusses mental health, you discussed the large increases in mental health cases in Butler County. What has contributed to this large increase?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really something that's going on nationally as well as locally. We've seen higher numbers of mental health cases. It is really hard to pinpoint one thing that's necessarily causing these high number of cases, but they do estimate that 20 to 25% of people or adults in Butler County are suffering from some form of mental illness. So it is a very serious thing affecting our community. We're seeing it in our schools. Miami University they have a long waiting list of patients seeking care for mental illness. Talawanda actually has a social worker in each one of its elementary schools based off of high demand for mental illness needs. But it's something that we're seeing across the county. Providers also have long waiting lists. They're having to turn people away. And things like high deductibles, high copays, certain providers not accepting Medicaid, those are all barriers that are also being faced in the battle against mental illness. And it's just a very serious issue that we're having to deal with right now. Also, there's a lot of stigma that surrounds it as well. So some patients are fearful to get help, which is another barrier in the battle too. So again, something our community is taking very seriously.
Definitely, yeah. So in the article, you talk about the Coalition for a Healthy Community Area, in which 600 citizens now possess the title of being mental health first aid certified, correct? So tell me, how significant was this, and what do these sort of training programs mean to those that battle with mental health issues?
Yes, the Coalition for Healthy Community Oxford is a local group that's kind of just working to make our city healthier, and one of their key priority areas right now is mental health. So they've actually hosted workshops and seminars during the past few years where they've trained people to be mental health first aid certified. And basically that's like CPR, but for mental health. So kind of like how CPR is you're able to provide relief until a professional is available. It's the same thing for mental health first aid. So people who are certified, they can recognize the warning signs, they know when someone needs help, and they know what to tell them to help them get to a professional. And with the rise of mental illness cases, it's so important to have that in our community.
Got it. And so what preventative steps can we take to prevent ourselves from being infected by hepatitis A in the future?
Right, so the biggest thing is to get vaccinated, especially if you fall into one of those high-risk groups. So if you are in jail or you work in a jail, as well as a homeless center or a drug treatment center, you definitely need to get vaccinated. If you're providing care or you've been in one of those facilities, it's so critical to get it because that's really where we're seeing the highest number of cases. It's really interesting that healthy people are not the main ones that are being affected. But other than that, hand washing obviously is so important. And if you exhibit any symptoms of the disease, then definitely go see your healthcare provider.
Definitely. Well, Patrick, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us about the state of health at Oxford.
Oh, of course. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Welcome back to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Dylan Srocki. Miami's Art Museum is celebrating its 40th anniversary with a new exhibit. With over 17,000 options from its archive, the museum chose 40 works across different cultures, time periods, and forms of art. Most of the art is donated. The exhibit is on display until June 8th. The museum is open Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 5 p.m. and Saturdays from noon until 5 p.m. The Treblemakers, an all-girls a cappella group, spent months rehearsing for the International Championship of Collegiate A Cappella. February 23rd, they took the stage. Oxford Weekly News reporter Kat Bodziak has their story.
These harmonies captivated audiences one Saturday afternoon in Centerville, Ohio. Junior troublemaker Abby Chafe says placing at the ICCAs was not their original goal.
We kind of decided that we were going to do this competition, on a whim. And everybody kind of wanted to compete and see where we could bring this group in the future. And to get there, to see all these groups and to place and to get top girl group, I think we were all crying.
President of the Treblemakers, Senior Emma Harris, has been a passionate member of the group ever since her first audition. Like Chafe, Harris was blown away by the results at the ICCAs.
So 10 groups competed in the competition. We were one of 3 all-girls groups. We ended up ranking 4th overall. We were the top ranking one-gendered group. I'm beyond proud of how we ended up placing. I could not have asked for a better outcome, and I couldn't have expected a better outcome. So it was just really cool seeing these other teams who we've never seen perform before, and they were so incredible. And being considered to be up there in that top 4 was just the coolest experience ever. And even hearing things from the producer and the PA on the show, they were saying things they've never seen an all-girls group as powerful as us. They've never seen a group competing for the first time who came in at the level that we came in.
Even though the team reached new heights, you might not see them at next year's ICCAs.
I think that we might think about it, but it was a lot of work, and it tested us and it pushed us, and that was great. Was it stressful at times? Yes. Was it trying at times? Yes. So I don't know if we will do it again, but I mean, that's an experience that we have now.
The Treblemakers will be holding an invitational concert on March 9th in Hall Auditorium at 7 p.m. Tickets can be purchased online or at the cab office. Back to you, Dylan.
Music of a different variety will be celebrated at a Cincinnati landmark. For the first time, Miami University's Symphony Orchestra is slated to play Cincinnati's Music Hall. Conductor Ricardo Averbach is excited about this unique opportunity for his musicians. The orchestra will play alongside Miami alum and faculty who perform regularly for the Cincinnati Symphony.
Now we are playing the premiere of a composition by a composer from Miami University. So the students are working with a living composer who is a member of the faculty.
Miami's music department is offering free transportation to and from Music Hall. The concert is at 7:30 on Monday, March 4th. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dylan Srocki. You can watch us online on our Oxford Weekly News YouTube channel. Also, connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Oxford Weekly News.